Okay, we can get started. Welcome everybody to our second session of Fitness Unlocked. This is our webinar sessions that is running all year round and it's hosted by Kisi. There's a cloud-based access control. In our session today, we're going to be talking about maximizing revenue through bookings and essentially how you can streamline operations and have revenue-driven scheduling for your businesses. So in our panel today, we have Andrew Creamer from Skeda, Heather from FitBiz Solutions, and Jeremy from 24 Golf, as well as Bernie from Kisi, and I'll be moderating our session. I'm also from Kisi and I'm overseeing our partnerships. So looking forward to having you all here and getting the session started. To begin, I'll let the panelists introduce themselves with the question of where you fit in the fitness scene. And maybe Andrew, you can get us started.
Absolutely. So thanks so much for having me, Daniela. Hey, everyone. I'm Andrew. I'm GM of All Booked by Skeda. I'm really excited to be here. All Booked by Skeda is a booking solution designed for fitness facilities that are really focused on monetizing their spaces, right? So whether it's golf simulators booking out bays, tennis clubs booking out courts, facilities like that, we have a really strong booking solution for that type of facility. Focus on a few key value props: saving admin time by automating logic and making it just really easy to have your facility run on autopilot, growing revenue with smart pricing rules, and then just delivering a really great booking experience for your customers.
Jeremy, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm Jeremy Lee. I am based in Pinehurst, North Carolina, and I own 24 Golf. We are a golf simulator center. So where our kind of connection with the fitness world is we are 24 hours membership only, similar to like an Anytime Fitness or something like that. It has just been a great relationship with Kisi and having this access control panel, and for whether it's Golf Simulator Center, whether it's a gym, it's just been it's been a great thing for our business.
All right. And last but not least, right? I'm Heather Dunham. I'm the COO of FitBiz Solutions. And what we do is we actually offer virtual assistant solutions to help people in the fitness industry. So what we realized in previously as both gym owners, my husband and I, as well as in other companies, is that you would be able to have all these tasks that need to be done, but not enough people and the right people to do them. So we found that that was such a pain point for people. So we actually offer that solution of all the behind the scenes stuff when it comes to even the advertising, the marketing, social media, anything on the back end with virtual solutions. And also we do business consulting as well now.
Bernie, the real last but not least.
Yeah, hi, my name is Bernie Mail. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO at Kisi, and work closely with Daniela on our fitness partnerships and also with our larger fitness customers. So thanks all for joining in.
Great. Thanks for the intro, everybody. Yeah, so essentially what we've been seeing in the fitness industry recently is that there is an increasing need to monetize spaces and make sure that they're flexible and they can be adjusted to different forms of making revenue. And bookings and schedulings is one of that big part and big aspect of that, of the making sure that your business continues to generate revenue. So maybe Jeremy, you can get us started with this one since you're a gym owner or a golf simulator owner yourself. So when it comes to increasing revenue, where should fitness or business owners, gym owners start? Would you say it's a pricing strategy, retention strategy, technology?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly believe it is technology. I do believe that everybody is looking for convenience, and this really helps my business, having access to our facility 24 hours a day and building that revenue around their schedule. Between families having to deal with sports and their kids, between work schedules, between all these different things, they can come in at 6 o'clock in the morning. That is a huge revenue driver for me because they have that flexibility and can really access our facility whether we have employees here or not. And that is a huge benefit where I think technology creates that opportunity for them no matter what their schedule is, night or day.
Andrew, maybe you can pitch in from your perspective from All Booked.
Definitely. I'd strongly echo what Jeremy said, right? I think having a 24/7 facility where you have a booking system like All Booked that seamlessly integrates with an access control system like Kisi The ultimate under-monetized hour is, the hour that you're not open, right? And so being open all the hours is a really, really powerful lever. I think a second really, really powerful one is your pricing strategy, right? You're going to have busier times and less busy times naturally. Having a pricing strategy that intelligently says, hey, if my peak hours are 5 to 8 p.m., let's say, I'm going to charge more for those hours. I'm going to set a higher price to get the maximum, bang for my buck when I'm in most demand. Whereas at 6 in the morning, which might be an off time, I'm maybe going to set a lower price to incentivize people to come in at that time that, might be flexible on when they come in. I think that's another really high impact one that can drive pretty good revenue uplift.
Heather, do you have maybe any additional comments in that
Yes,
question?
no, I absolutely agree with both what Andrew and Jeremy are saying. I would also say, in addition to that, is really retention. So you can have people coming in the front door, but if everyone's just going out the back door, it's just a never-ending hamster wheel. So in addition, with having the technology and the pricing, retention is definitely a must-have, and people will look at things on the front end and not actually pay attention to that piece, and you'll just always be spinning your wheels.
Bernie, what have you seen work from the technology perspective, maybe when you add access control to the gym in terms of revenue?
Yeah, I think the biggest impact of adding access control to the gym is the ability to open 24/7. And so you can, even as a one-man show or one-woman show or a couple's gym, open, 24/7, 365. Even if there's like days off, you can still remotely manage the location, even close it if there's a snowstorm or anything like that. So you don't need to worry that the gym is out of control when you're not there.
And maybe Heather, you can share some examples of perhaps how the booking experience has led to directly increased revenue and better retention for members.
Yeah, absolutely. So by being able to have the booking feature, one, you can ensure that you don't have too many people in certain classes. So that can also be a deterrent for people coming in as they're looking to have something that works with obviously the space and also the coach to person working out ratio. So that's a big one. The other part is just ensuring that you're able to increase your revenue by having the bookings the way you do, because of the fact that you can actually look at monetize where the needs are and also look at where you need to reduce them. So maybe you may have certain classes or certain things that are currently scheduled that you need to look at, so you can increase the revenue by making sure that you are using the optimal times in the fitness industry versus maybe what you currently had running.
Jeremy, do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different for us in our business, and I think it gives you a lot of flexibility, no matter what kind of business you have, versus where Andrew was talking about peak times and different things like that, where you want to increase that revenue. Well, in my model, we are a flat rate membership model. So it gives them, it allows us to add a lot more members because there's so many people that have different times that they can come in. So our utilization rates are actually still on average, pretty low, even though we have a bigger membership. And that's what that flexibility allows you to do.
That's really important. And, I didn't fully clarify at the beginning, but I think it's worth noting that there is a big difference in businesses that are gyms, where you have a bunch of members and then they just go, they use the space. Maybe they're just running in the treadmill and then they leave, versus like booking spaces where it's a little bit more boutique. It's a little bit more hands-on in the sense of that the experience being a little bit more elevated. And it's important also to consider, bookings and schedulings for that business model as well. Andrew, I don't know if maybe you want to pitch in and share a little bit of the common booking inefficiencies that you've seen in the fitness business or the fitness industry. I know from All Booked perspective is all about making sure that those operations are smooth, but maybe you have some comments there on how you've seen people not manage their space properly.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, I think the ambition for any fitness business should be automate as much as you humanly can, right? Put as much of the business as you can on autopilot so that you're spending as little of your time as possible on admin work and can redirect that time towards other things. I think there's a few really, really big ones. Obviously, you want a really strong self-serve booking experience, right? That's not just available, but is so intuitive for users that they're not calling you about it, right? You're not getting calls where people say, hey, I tried to log a booking and I got confused or I got an error or whatever it might be. You want to avoid that at all costs. So I think that's a really, really big one. I think a second really important one that obviously many fitness facilities do, I have to say I'm surprised to encounter some fitness facilities that still don't do it, is automating the payment processing portion of it. I've seen many fitness facilities take this journey where they will go from a sort of non-automated payment processing model where there's someone spending a bunch of admin time, initiating billings for bookings, for memberships, whatever it might be. And that's just like a pretty heavy lift every month, right? Every month, every week, every day, setting out those bills, running those credit card charges. If you're able to automate that experience where someone logs a booking or someone signs up for a membership, their credit card is charged right away, recurring charges just happen automatically. That takes you from having to manually manage a large share of bookings from a payments perspective to just having to dive into sort of the relatively small cases where there's sort of an issue, sort of small minority of cases like that. So that's another one that I'd say is really, really high leverage that I've seen it happen countless times where a facility will go from not doing it that way to doing it that way. And they'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm never going back. This has saved me so much time.
Heather, is that something that you come across often as well?
Yes, I definitely agree with what Andrew's saying. I mean, it's really some of the things that you can really automate, and with the way technology is, it's just you can't not do it. You really need to be using it to cut down on your manpower. And that's also even with what we do, is that we do automate and make processes to make things easier, both in the fitness industry, whether it be that you have certain class sizes or private, whatever it may be, is instead of taking all that manual work and making it more efficient and as much as possible in one place. You don't always need to have all these different programs to do so. So yeah, no, I definitely agree with it. One of the other things I see too, is really even just with the automations of people scheduling and also checking them in. There's just such an inefficiency with people using those. And so in order to do that, you can actually hold people more accountable, help reduce your churn, just really being able to understand your clients and who's coming in and how you can even make adjustments because you already have all that stuff right there at your fingertips. So automating all these things just makes it so much easier.
Yeah, one thing to add on the booking side is I think what we see with gyms, or any fitness facilities is how they think about bookings. There's really 3 different types. There's like the spontaneous, no member, day pass type of, one-off leads, right? So that they're booking an experience or a day at the gym, and then maybe you can convert them. And then there's the regular members who need to maybe sometimes book classes or book a time for a certain area that they want to use. And then the third type of booking that we see is, more like the upgrade things for the existing members if they want to use a special class or like a special equipment or a special room, that is also often monetized. Andrew, is this something that is in line with what you guys are seeing as well?
I totally agree. I think that's spot on. Definitely see the sort of upgrade concept, right? So basically, depending on the space, whether it's for a golf simulator, you have kind of premium bays that may have larger screens, the higher end technology, whatever it might be, versus the regular bays, and those have different prices. And so that's definitely something we see. And then I think your point about kind of your regular memberships versus your more one-off, that's definitely something we see too, right? I'd say we see by and large 3 models of facility. Model 1 is, I would say, a bit more like Jeremy's, which is your pure membership model, which is basically you're a member of our facility, you pay sort of a recurring membership fee that gives you access and privilege to the facility. Model 2 that you can see is a more pure a la carte option, right? Which is basically, hey, I booked this space, I booked the golf simulator sort of by the hour when I'm using it, and it's pure a la carte. And then I think the third model is a hybrid of the two, which is to say, hey, I have a recurring membership, model. I have recurring members who sort of belong monthly, and they have special privileges associated with that. But then I also have options for a la carte booking, whether that's just for someone that's out of town and has a one-off need to use the space, whether that's for someone that wants to try the space out and is exploring a potential membership. We do find that there's certainly value to offering both of those in parallel, right? Having your membership base that's the bulk of your revenue, but also having the a la carte model where people can book one-off. Maybe those one-off bookings are charged a higher price than your members would get, and that's totally, totally fine. Adds a little bit of operational complexity, obviously, to have both models. But if you have the right software set up, you can automate the vast majority of that operational complexity to offer it. So we see all of the above, and we see quite a bit of value associated with actually offering both of those models in parallel.
Daniela, can I follow up on this one real quick? It's actually interesting because we recently had a team event at a golf simulator, and I guess must have been peak hour that we booked it for, and the price was double than what it normally would have been. Jeremy, is this something with a flat rate model that you feel like you're missing out on, like peak surge pricing Friday night, Thursday night, or is this you don't see it that way?
I don't see it that way because I do not have a bar model. So the bar model makes a big difference for that. So when you're going to those premium times, I think that makes a huge difference. I decided to go on the more performance side of things. But where I do peak is I actually have those 1 hour option bookings to try us out. And I do a premium for that number. And you're talking about revenue generation. That's unbelievable how much revenue we generate from that. Who people just want the convenience. Or where I live, we have 1 million golfers that come into town that maybe have a rainy day that we don't want to lose out of that revenue, but they're going to pay a premium price for that. And so there's definitely a lot of different ways to unlock that peak hours, non-peak hours. But in my case, membership, if I can get 300 members all paying me a certain amount of money every month, it's consistent. I can be expected for consistent revenue. And then any bonus on top of that is fantastic.
That's pretty good. I mean, I think that answers what our next question would have been, which is how can you maximize the value of bookings? It really is a matter of making sure you have the right technology in place so you can automate the experience, ensure that operations are running smoothly. Maybe, Jeremy, like you mentioned, having memberships, maybe having off-peak hours or peak hours. So really it's just a matter of what works for your business, but always thinking, how can I increase the value of this and what are some of the technologies or the systems that can power that for me to make more money, but also always keep the customers top of mind. Cool. What are some creative ways that fitness businesses and generally golf simulators and other booking facilities can monetize their space during off-peak hours or underutilized times? So Jeremy, you just mentioned, for you, it's more important to just have that membership sort of fee being paid consistently because you can track that revenue and the health of your business more. But maybe Andrew, Heather, for businesses that do price that differently, do you see any strategies being implemented for off-peak hours that are working?
I think what I've seen some of our customers do really, really well is linking an off-peak pricing strategy with an intentional segmentation of their customer base to basically say, hey, who are my more price sensitive but not time sensitive customers versus vice versa. So I think about one of our customers in Texas in particular. They're a private athletic facility, fully automated, open 24/7, no staff on site, that would charge different prices for different times of the day. One of the things they've really leaned into to increase the utilization of their off-peak hours is they've identified they have a group of customers who are very price sensitive, but are not very time sensitive, right? Basically, they're like, look, I want to use the space next week. I'm actually pretty flexible on when I come in. I'm actually pretty flexible to tell you kind of last minute when I'm going to use it, right? In other words, I don't need to book it 3 weeks in advance. I can tell you the week of when I'm coming in. And I'm willing to trade off all of those downsides, right? Sort of not getting the premium times, not being able to book further in advance, et cetera, in exchange for a discounted pricing. And so they've designed essentially a special membership model for that type of customer that basically reflects, look, you're going to get a special price that's very discounted. You're not going to have access to certain high demand hours, and you're not going to be able to book as far in advance as others because anyone that sort of wants to pay full rate, so to speak, is going to have first dibs. They've had a lot of success with that model. I think it's a really good, clever example of some of the things that you can do to increase the utilization of those off-peak hours and deliver the right pricing strategy to the right customer group.
I would say too, Andrew, I know even in our fitness facilities with some of the people that aren't even like a 24-hour facility, so not necessarily using the peak hours in terms of what they're billing, but even maybe having other people be able to utilize their facility. So whether it be say you're hosting trainings in there, you're essentially renting out the space, either to even an individual trainer if you wanted to, or even just other businesses. Like we used to even have people that would come in and actually do team buildings or do different things as long as you have certain spaces that allow for it. Self-defense classes. I mean, there's all different things. It's just making utilization of the space, whether it be with clients that you currently have or renting out the space even per se, to make use of it. Even chiropractors and physical therapists, even with individual rooms and different things like that as well, can really be a consistent moneymaker. And it also can really amount to a great referral program too.
Yeah, I think the personal trainer concept is super strong during the day. What I also noticed last time when I used a golf simulator is that if there's multiple simulators next to each other, sometimes during daytime when it's not so busy, someone might come with a couple people and book one simulator, but then use three. And so a great way to avoid revenue loss is like to have automatic detection if that golf simulator is used. And then we actually did use two instead of one. And there was like some automatic voice coming from them all that's like, hey, if you want to keep using this, you need to pay for this. And then we stopped using the second one.
Nice. I definitely want to use both without paying. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not the right ICP. Bernie, to follow up on that, what role does technology play in improving the booking experience, booking systems in general, and what features actually make a difference? I think we talk a lot about, having tech in your space, but what actually, in terms of, maybe Kisi all booked integration makes a difference?
Yeah, I think, from a golf simulator, you'd sometimes go there with more people. So how easy is it to give them access as well? So you don't need to constantly watch the door. Like on-demand booking. I'm at 5 p.m. I have the idea that I want to go to a golfing simulator, call a couple of friends, maybe because I'm not a performance golfer, and I go on their website and book something, and then at 6 p.m. the slot starts, and I want to be able to get in. So like having this pure on-demand model, and then also protect the facility where you can see that how many people actually showed up and was this what I expected? Otherwise, maybe I'll send an alert to the owner and operator of the facility. So just making it super easy, but then keeping control of the facility on the back end is just the two sides of the technology where it can help.
Jeremy, maybe you have some thoughts there on some technology that you've implemented in your space that you think actually makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, the integrations really help us a lot, between our camera systems, between our door locks, between our booking that we actually use with All Booked. These integrations are huge for us. And so it really helps us. I think a lot of things about building revenue is not always about the money in the door, but it's about the control of expenses. And so if we can continue to control those expenses using technology, using cameras, I'm essentially an employee-less business. I mean, not only is it harder to find good employees, but they're increasingly telling me, well, I'm not going to work that time. So if I can eliminate as many employees as possible and run a business where I don't have that expense, our revenue is going to go up tremendously. So utilizing the integrations between the different technologies so they work together seamlessly is by far one of our best ways to generate revenue and cut expenses.
And Heather, maybe from your expertise and experience and consulting with businesses and advising what the best tools for their stack could be, what are some must-have tools, maybe on the integration side, but also standalone systems that you think businesses should be using to track attendance and improve their booking performance?
Absolutely. I think just a fantastic reporting system is a must-have. It really just cuts down with one, you have to track things, but the common mistake is people will track them, but actually understanding the reports and having clear and concise reports for what you're looking to do. This will just continue to allow you to optimize the best times for people. Also, even automations with that. I think sometimes automations can be overutilized, but they can also be underutilized. So even when it comes to maybe even like wait lists or different things that can be triggered and still seem personal so that people can either upgrade services, they can actually come into a class and have more frequency and have better accountability. These things are all just a must-have across the industry, even when it comes to a box gym, to a private training gym. It just really helps that you can actually truly track it and be able to follow up. Again, automations are imperative. And even if it is an automation being sent to a human so that they can also do a personal follow-up. So the thing is it doesn't have to be that the human touch is gone, but that it has the automations that can still seem more human, but then also it can also aid in triggering those as well.
I like that you said that it's not about just eliminating all human touch or all human interaction. It's just making sure that some of that experience is automated so it's faster, it's less prone to mistakes, but that you still know that you're, dealing with a business that is led by someone that you could potentially interact with. Andrew, what about from your perspective? I know, of course, all booked, but maybe anything else that you would recommend adding?
Definitely. I mean, I think I'd provide a big +1 to all the things that Jeremy and Heather and Bernie listed. Obviously, you need a great booking system. Obviously, an access control system is critical for enabling that 24/7 model. Having, I think, security cameras is really important for that model too. They strongly agree with Heather. Great reporting you want built in, ability to automate. I think having a great website is really important, right? That's the face of your business. And I think having all those things integrate with each other is really, really important, right? It's one thing to have a bunch of great standalone solutions, but if they don't really work together, it's going to feel like a disjointed experience, and you as the admin are going to end up having to do extra work to try to get them to work together. So having a really, really seamless integration where someone does the booking in one system, and then they get the Kisi access code, let's say immediately, from Kisi, like that's really, really important. So you want to look for that seamlessness in any of these sets of tools you buy. I think the last thing I'd say as well for any of these tools, I think about this in particular for booking systems, but I think it's true for any system that you have that's customer facing. You want something that reflects well on your business, right? Like if you just from like a user experience standpoint, if you think about your booking system in particular, that's really the face of your business in many ways, right? Like that's what your customers are going to see when they're booking before they come in, before they ever see your facility in many cases. And so you want that to reflect well on you, right? If it's beautiful and seamless and really easy to use, your customers are going to look at that and think, oh, wow, this is like a really professional operation. This is a place I want to go. If it's clunky and it's hard to use and it's a lot of steps and it looks like it was made 20 years ago, you're setting the opposite impression with the customers, right? To say, oh gosh, is this that well-rounded? Is this sort of a place I want to be? So I think having all those things is important. Having seamless integration between them is really, really important. And then just having systems that set like a good impression of your business with customers is the last that I'd put out there.
More on the data side, a question for anyone who has experience with that. Does any one of you use or know if facilities use data for predictive analysis, like future planning, for example, when to staff cleaners or when to have an on-site person there, or like anything like that, to see how behavior changed over the past and then adjust the future schedule? Is this a thing at all?
I could speak to some of the functionality that we have in our system that we see really heavily used. One of the simplest, but I think most powerful charts that we offer in our reporting is just the reporting to say for your spaces, what are the days of the week and times of those days that they're the most heavily utilized? And that you can do that both retroactively, meaning for historic time periods, and looking forward for sort of future bookings. It's really powerful because you can use it for a lot of reasons. You can use it for scheduling, like you mentioned, Bernie, right? So if you have to do cleaning at a certain time or you have to do maintenance at a certain time, you could say, okay, if I have to do weekly cleaning, let's say, I'm going to schedule that for my quietest time of the week, and I can use that reporting to drive that. You can use that for pricing strategy as well, like we've been talking about, right? So you can say, hey, here are the times of the week I'm always busy. Here are the times of the week I'm always not busy. Let me set my pricing strategy to match that. So it's a simple chart, but it's a really, really powerful one that's included in our reporting suite.
Yeah, and I'll add to that as well. We use it a lot for our events. So if we look at what our membership, we like to see the peak times that our membership like to come, and what on average is when we like to see them there. So what we'll do is we'll try to book events around those. So we always want to make first priority for our members, but then if we can add in utilization by booking events outside of those times, that's where that data really comes in handy. And then obviously, pricing, is our pricing correct, and are our utilization rates. If our utilization rates are starting to get, 80, 90% or 10% or, whatever they are, the fluctuation, we need to start doing price adjustments. So that's how we start fluctuating in pricing increases. As our utilization rates increase, then we'll take our lowest level of our membership level and we'll start restricting the hours of that membership level. So they'll have to increase to the next membership level to get that unlimited kind of action. So that's where the data really helps us in utilizing our pricing strategies and event spaces.
And I want to go back to a point that was made earlier, just because I found it kind of interesting. But Jeremy and Andrew, both of you mentioned that part of the tech stack was also cameras. So it's the access control, the booking system, but also cameras. Bernie, maybe you want to give a little bit of a context on how cameras can be used with access control to better improve the experience there.
Yes. So yeah, you can use cameras in a facility for at various locations. So obviously on the inside and outside of the doors. And when you unlock the door with Kisi, you can see a snippet of that event or screenshots of that event in the Kisi dashboard. So it's really all in one place. But of course, you can just also use it to, keep the golf simulator, for example, like 24/7 accessible from remote, so you always see what's going on. And a really new way that we launched to keep control of the facility is what we call anti-tailgating. So you see if one person unlocked the door, but then 2 or more people walked in, and you can get an alert via email or mobile push that, hey, there's more people than actually unlocked the door. And that might not be a bad thing, but it's just good to keep an eye on it, how often that happens, and if there's any people who keep doing it over time, and then maybe there's a way to remind them. It doesn't have to be, a disciplinary action, but it could become one if there's serial offenders. And so like just keeping video as a source of how many people came in versus the Kisi unlock data is a very interesting, analysis to make. And if you want to have that as alert or just analysis, I think that's up to you. But we found a lot of customers have good use for this to increase their revenues as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on cameras. I think the future of cameras has so much growth potential from a monitoring standpoint that's not invasive, but it really, if somebody's vaping, that you're not in a smokeless facility. It's the whole cliche of when the cat's away, the mice will play. So having that camera system, we can see every single one of our bays. We can see our lounge. We can see our back door, our front door. So we are pretty much really 360-degree coverage. But then we chose a camera system that is using AI, and that we do believe that one day it will be able to give us triggers. Hey, somebody's doing this, and it's a repeat offender. And having a good camera system, I think, is essential, because you can go out there and you can buy a $170 camera system on Amazon, and you think, oh, well, this is perfect. Well, if you're really trying to cut those expenses and reduce your employee, getting a good integrated camera system that will begin to tell you what you would expect out of an employee, these are all good things that will help your business increase revenue and decrease expenses. And risk, by the way.
That's a perfect way to put it, Jeremy. And I think it's very common to see or come across business owners that just open their fitness facility and they're like, we're not collecting data, or they're collecting a ton of data, but they don't know how they're going to analyze it. Or they're like, well, we heard somewhere that we had to have video and access control and bookings, but we don't actually know how to use it. But so having a plan and making sure that you understand how you're going to mitigate that risk and how you're going to maximize your revenue is really important. On that note, and maybe Jeremy, you can get us also started with this one. So if a business owner is starting, their fitness facility, they're opening their booking-based business, what is one automation that they should implement first, especially considering that resources are usually limited?
Yeah. So, I mean, for us is the integration with Zapier. I couldn't do it without it. Although we want all of our different technologies to do everything that we possibly want them to do, but everybody's personality is different. And there's just things that take priority with these companies. And so sometimes you gotta kind of dive in and tweak it a little bit. Our issue was guest billing, where we can't really do guest billing based on bookings. And so we had to use Zapier to kind of automate that process for us. I couldn't agree with Heather more. Automation is so key, especially on a low employee business, and it can help you save so much money. And I mean, I literally don't touch the booking system now. Kisi connects to All Booked connects to Zapier, and that process is hands off. And it has been from day one because I took the time in the beginning when nobody was coming through the door to set that up properly. It will be worth, that is not by far number one. Make sure they're set up when nobody's coming through the door, because when you got 100 people coming through the door, you don't want to be fumbling over and missing revenue that's coming through.
And Heather, you spoke about automation, so maybe instead of asking you for a recommendation, maybe a question. So what's a question that you ask business owners when you're starting to understand how they're managing their bookings, their revenue, their scheduling system, that could help you better understand what could be improved?
Absolutely. So really, we really want to look at what their current clientele is. Also, of course, what do they offer? Because depending on what they offer, it's going to make a huge difference in what resources they need to use and also how to best help them. So when it comes down to it, whether you have a box gym or 24-hour gym, or you have someone that's doing the privates and semi-privates, it's really with the automations, making sure that you can optimize things for them. Again, make it systematic. Again, that's the big thing. Instead of just making it automatic, making it systematic with it, and just truly being personal in that part. So when someone's coming in new and trying to figure out what that looks like, it's really being able to evaluate their current clientele, what they offer, and then really evaluating their cost, because a lot of people will just throw money at something and it may not be the proper thing. So looking at their revenue and expenses is a huge one for us, and being able to evaluate where they can make their changes more quickly, whether it be pricing, whether it be scheduling. So having the right things in the system, even if it's as basic as your billing, you're like tracking your clients in some manner, and then being able to book them, it's the biggest room that people can really look at quick changes with a minimal technology.
Awesome. Bernie, do you have any recommendations there? I want to ask you to say a question because I know you're not in the consulting space, but maybe what's
Yeah, I
the
think
recommendation?
and more in terms of timeline. So basically, it matters if you're just opening the space and what your positioning is versus if you're trying to grow a space or preventing shrinkage, for example. I think that's something Heather brought up earlier with churn. Could be interesting for existing fitness businesses that you could analyze by customer groups. So like your daily users, your 2 to 3 times a week users, and your occasional users. And how does, like, who drops off their pattern? I mean, of course, someone's on vacation or has other stuff to do, but if it's all of a sudden not happening anymore and keeps not happening a couple of weeks after, maybe that's a good flag to call someone. But I'm not sure if any one of you guys has experience with something like that.
We use like a text notification system in those cases. And so like even for our time management in this deal, and I can't say enough good things about Kisi and All Booked, is, you know, working together for both of those. We had a lot of restrictions if we would have stuck with other companies, and the price was much, much higher. And they kind of tied our hands, where we had some individuality with both of these companies, and we were able to kind of customize it specifically to our needs, which was great. And then using text notifications and different things like that really helps us just be more hands-off, and couldn't be happier with that.
What is an example for like a rule that you get a text for?
Yeah, so right now we cannot time bays for our bay usage. So let's just say somebody books for an hour, and that bay, if you went through TrackMan's booking system, they would allow you to do that. But that's one restriction that they have on us if we don't use their booking. So we had to kind of come up with a creative way. So what we do is we used integrations between you guys and Allbooked and Zapier, and it actually sends them a text message 5 minutes before their session ends. And it says, hey, either book more time, which is a revenue increaser, for our hourly people, or please end your session and be ready to come off. So, and those going back to expenses, every extra shot that they hit past that hour, every group that splits into 3 different sessions, every shot into those screens, that's cost. That's cost, because we're gonna have to replace those screens faster. So utilizing all of these technologies together really helps decrease those or controls those costs, like Heather mentioned.
You can also probably use the text as reputation management. So you send them a text like, hey, review us on Google Maps, like an hour after.
Use it all the time. Reputation management, automation, reputation management. If nobody's doing reputation management, you're talking about a business increaser or a revenue increaser. I mean, you're going to see such a huge difference between your what people find you on Google versus not using you on Google. Those comments that you're getting is massive for your business, and I highly recommend that being automated for every single business out there.
If I could just sort of jump in and sort of echo a lot of those points, I think the way Jeremy has set up his facility is honestly phenomenal. Like, I think your combination of systems is really, really powerful. I think what we tend to see is every facility is a little bit different, right? Every business is going to be a little bit different in terms of their goals of how they want everything to work, when exactly they want customers to receive communications. Do they want text or emails? When do they want those texts to arrive? All of those kind of things. Any system or booking system and sort of other system is going to have a certain amount of flexibility built into it, and that's fantastic. And I think we have a lot of it, and I think leveraging that is powerful. But I think doing the little bit of extra work up front, like Jeremy did, to say, okay, I have a set of systems, all of which integrate with Zapier. Using Zapier, I can do pretty much anything out there, right? Like I can use that to trigger just about anything else I can imagine, whether it's connecting 2 systems, whether it's triggering emails, whether it's triggering texts. That's really going to be the path that's going to give you the most power in terms of setting up your facility exactly the way you want it to. It's a little extra work on the front end for sure to sort of do that extra setup. But to Jeremy's point, that is work that is going to be extremely worthwhile in the long run when you save a ton of time, you avoid problems you otherwise would have had. You have the perfect tech stack and the perfect model for your specific business that might be, slightly different than the business down the road. And so I think it's absolutely the right way to do it. I think that upfront work is time very, very well spent in my experience.
Yeah, Andrew, I want to add to that too, just even like you guys are saying of setting up your systems, is once you have the systems, really actually tracking like different tags and like categorizing people is so big as well. Because again, the systems that you can use, whether it become with reputation management, like once you have reviews tagging people that they've done Facebook reviews, Google reviews, the different stuff, you can really then again use the automations and the processes to continue to reach those people based on their attendance, based on their usage, and those different things that you can continue to have the system set up and then just continue to utilize them, because people don't use them. They may have them, but not taking advantage of it and putting the time in to actually go in and categorize and put those tags or do those different things so the system can be utilized even more.
Awesome. Well, we'll move into our last formal question, but then there's more if we want to continue the conversation. And I also encourage attendees to ask questions in the chat if you have anything that came up from this, maybe even, if you're currently dealing with some issue at your facility, how to approach that. Maybe we can advise from the technology perspective. But what trends or shifts do you think will shape how the fitness business industry is approaching booking and revenue in the next couple of years? Maybe Andrew, you can get us started there.
I can jump in on it. I think it's going to be actually maybe a recap in many ways of many of the points that all of us have made, which is I think automating everything is the ultimate trend here, right? How do you automate as much as possible in your business so that you can achieve what Jeremy has, which is like a truly no employee business that mostly runs itself and is sort of as little work as possible for you. I think that's the ultimate trend here, right? So whether that's 24/7 facilities with no site on staff, booking systems that integrate really seamlessly with your access control system, whether it's automating the payment processing component of it, whether it's sort of other automations in the background with communications your customers receive, with integrating with your sort of accounting and invoicing systems, whatever it might be. I think automating everything is the ultimate trend. And so I think collecting the right set of systems that let you do that, fitting them together correctly, to me, that's sort of the ultimate winning recipe.
Yeah, Jeremy, or Andrew, I completely agree with that too. And I think just with AI, and Jeremy actually brought it up, is what I was thinking of is how he was even saying with the facial recognition and all of these things. I mean, it's just going to continue between the automations and the AI to be able to grow, just to tell you where the holes in your businesses are, tell you where you need to be optimizing. I mean, really, you can look anything up and using AI now and the way things are and all of the information it gives you. But just it gets smarter and smarter every day. And then the other part is even with just servicing people and talking to people in those automations. So with voice bots, like it's already to where it sounds like you, looks like, you know, all those different things that it can continue to be utilized even more to make people feel taken care of, to help decrease churn and increase revenue and just really maximize all the solutions and where you need to really optimize.
Jeremy, what about you? Any trends?
Well, I kind of feel like we are the trend, you know, and I really do believe that. I mean, it's a little bit different for a product, you know, a product type retail business. You know, they're not going to be able to be employee-less. But gyms, I mean, outside of personal trainers, outside of a gym manager, I mean, if you can automate and you can, um, even if it's not 24 hours, you know, figuring out even a way to automate certain things within the business. I definitely think that that is the trend. You know, it's just so much harder to get because we're such an online world now. You know, people can work for their homes. And so, you know, especially in this industry, we're trying to figure out a way to get them out of their homes and come do something. You know, we're really in the fun business or the goal business. You know, and that's why I believe so much in memberships, because it's about convenience when they want to. And then that way I can do a smaller price, more volume, and I still have regular utilization rates. And so, you know, I definitely think that the cameras are the next level of this. And that's something that there's a ton of growth that still needs to happen in that world and the integration between the two. And so I think that's the trend that I think we'll see more happening in the next couple years, where we have that bigger integration with cameras and they're telling us a lot more information with their own eyes than just data points where it's kind of hard to understand.
Yeah, maybe one more perspective is we've talked a lot about technology, but what I'd like to see a little bit more in the coming years is more partnerships, because for, you know, Kisi has also corporate customers, and if, let's say, there's a financial institution next to a golf simulator, no reason the golf simulator shouldn't have a partnership or like that corporate as a customer who maybe wants to offer it as an employee perk and then get access to the ones who want to use it in a certain on-demand way per month or something like that. I think that's a huge potential to get more stable or like unfair sources of leads instead of just buying Google ads and whatnot. I think like the partner ecosystem will just drive a lot more demand and be more relevant, also to be technology equipped to satisfy that demand once you have those partnerships.
And if I could real quick on that point, I love that we do a corporate membership ourselves, but one of the best ways to increase revenue through marketing is to do something that's not technology based. So what we did was we did like a really nice invitation and we sent it to every golf neighborhood in our area. And they loved it. They got something in the mail. It's like old school. It's something different. It's something unique other than just pounding them to death on Google Ads or Facebook, doing something unique and creative that may not cost a lot of money. It cost us about $1,500 to send it all out. And I think we got 20 members out of it. It was, you know, just little unique things like that would really help generate revenue.
I would definitely love to receive a formal invite to my house. That sounds great. In an owl, if possible. That would be even better. Awesome. So we have two questions in the chat. If there's no last comments that any of you would like to add, maybe like anything that you're still eking to share, we can move into the questions and perhaps that also brings out more thoughts. Okay, cool. So Bernie, I think this question might be better for you. The context is from a partner that's looking into bundling better technology solutions so that they can increase the value for their clients. And the question goes, based on your experience working with facilities like golf courses and similar multi-use spaces, which of the use cases combining Kisi access control and AI-based camera systems do you see being implemented most often?
Well, I think it always starts with the business value, right? So, like, maybe if the business goal is to drive revenue, then it's like, how can we enable on-demand booking in a safe way, right? So if that's the problem that can be solved, then the bundle of Kisi plus SCADA plus a video partner of Kisi might work really well. But I would always start with the business objective that you want to influence, and then based on that, there could be predefined bundles of solutions that you recommend to your clients.
Yeah, to add to that too, I mean, of course, every technology that you implement in a space will have a million features and a million different ways to organize whatever you want to use. So like Bernie mentioned, just understanding the use case and knowing which companies have the features that you want and whether they're integrated to create what you're looking to do, is probably a good place to start as well. Question for Jeremy. What was the turning point in your business that you fully understood that access control and booking management integration was a business need rather than a risk? I like that.
We knew immediately. We knew that we wanted to be 24 hours, and we knew that we wanted to limit our employees. So that was our model going in. So it was a little bit different for us. I mean, we took the gym model. We saw some success with this model in the golf simulator world. I think at the end of the day it's about how much money do you have to start your business. It is very expensive to start a business, but it's even more expensive to grow a business. So if you don't have that cash flow, automating as much as you possibly can, and if you have a business that you can do that, where you're not selling a product that you physically have to check out, I would go automation every single time. Any sort of membership-based business, I would do door access, 24 hours, that you didn't have to worry about products coming off the shelf. But I mean, we even have an honor system for a little bit of snacks and drinks they scan a QR code, they pay themselves. We don't have anybody serving it to them. Now, that has changed a little bit because we're being forced to do an alcohol and beverage license versus being BYOB. So we are actually having to add an employee because of that. So there's, if you don't have to worry about that, if it's not an alcohol sort of business, then door access, booking software, 24-hour access is a home run.
Awesome. And there's we have time maybe for two more questions. I think this one's probably really relevant for the audience. Jeremy, as a business owner, what made you choose your current scheduling system, and how do you evaluate tech that drives both efficiency and revenue?
So I had a lot of options with my booking software. Obviously, we use TrackMan technology. They have their own. There's a couple other out there. I got to All Booked or SCADA through Kisi, which was good for us because there was an Ardian integration there. And so what that did, I went with Kisi because they allowed me to install it myself. There's not a lot of them out there that will actually allow you to install it yourself. And I already had electricians on staff that were building my building and doing all that stuff. So that was very nice of them to be flexible from that standpoint. And then when I learned about, well, it was SCADA at the time, but now it's All Booked in our world, they kind of met everything I needed except for being able to turn off the simulators at an hour or whatever their booking time was. But that was not an option with anybody other than TrackMan. So for me, having those integrations the companies that you're going to work with are going to have a lot of partnerships, and you're going to have a lot of different options. We had different options on cameras. We had a lot of options to choose from, but it was based on how much money we had to spend is the direction that we went. Like our cameras, we could either pay $10,000 up front, or we could pay a monthly over 5 years. We took the monthly over 5 years because it helped us financially. So I think you just got to look at your situation. You got to decide, okay, who's going to ultimately save the most money up front, because it's going to cost you a lot of money to build a business. And even though we live in the home of American golf and we grow in pretty substantially, we still are trying to just meet revenue numbers. And so just giving yourself enough time to give you a runway is huge in deciding who you're going to go with.
Awesome. I'll do one last question for Heather. So Heather, from an operations standpoint, what verticals are seeing the highest ROI from implementing scheduling tools, especially in relation to space utilization or staffing?
That's a good question. I think really when you're looking at it, you're really looking at your class utilization, of course, and how your space. One of the things that we actually do is we break it down almost like a formula. So based on what the current space looks like, what square footage is available based on the equipment they're using, and really seeing what we can actually, what classes can be in there, or even semi-private or private. And then the other thing is just really ensuring that we're always upselling and being able to actually know the people's needs. So then we can maybe in different areas have the semi-private or the private going on. And when you're looking at it, again, sometimes the private and the semi-privates, you're actually able to have a little bit more time flexibility with. So versus some people usually with the group fitness, it may be that they're really during the peak times around like maybe the 8 to 5, 9 to 5. So you have where those are hitting. So really assessing those and being able to get the biggest return on your investment. So you may only have like a one-on-one, but they may be paying much more, or even that's why a lot of people are going to even a 1-on-6 type of model, because it really is with that semi-private training, you can actually charge much more, use a smaller space, but actually, again, they're getting a better service. They're getting a more one-on-one type of, even though it's 6-on-1, it is still that personalized experience and being able to use it. So again, it's how you're utilizing the space, how you can maneuver it. Sometimes you may have a different room that you can be doing group training at the same time as the private and semi-private as well. So just really making sure you're maximizing the space, that the equipment that you choose to use in the facility will be able to, again, can you fit, how many people can you fit in those areas or not? And again, based on scheduling and how many people schedule during those times, again, taking advantage of that semi-private or private during maybe even some of the lower times where you could actually get those booked in.
Cool. Well, we're right at the hour, so that's kind of satisfying to know that we finished right on time. But thank you everybody for joining. Thank you to all the panelists for sharing all your insights. And of course, we'll follow up with an email after this. More than happy to, continue the conversation on a one-on-one basis as well, if there's any value in that. And as mentioned at the beginning, this is just a second session. We'll have more throughout the year. So if you're interested in registering for the next ones, of course, different topics, you can do that at the Kisi website or in the email that we'll send up as a follow-up. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Thank you.
Daniela. Thanks, Bernie.
Thank you all.
Bye.